Welcome back to my channel, Brian the Divine Healer here. Setting you up all with another fine reading, or maybe what is. Who knows what we're gonna do. So how y'all doing? It's good. Thank you for your checking out my videos already. Drink magic. Well, right now I feel like I'm gonna just fidget a little bit, and we're gonna do a what is. Okay, we're gonna do a what is. So the last one was what is a lie, and this time I think today I want to do what is what is perception? That's what it is. Perception. Okay. We'll get your blanket. We'll get your pillow. Let's get comfy here, right? We're gonna talk. And we're gonna figure out some things, okay? Because this is why I like this series, What Is, okay? So it gives me a little bit of a break of the messages. It really is kind of overloading because you feel compelled and you have to tell these stories, and it's great because I love sharing these things with you because there's people that are watching them, they need them, they like them, you know what I mean? It fits and it works, and so that's all that counts, right? So don't take it anything as a complaint or something like that. It's not, right? We're just adding on. We're expanding this from like tarot to, you know, like a little bit of, you know, one-on-one time. I gotta know my crew, you know what I'm saying? Right? You gotta know me. So this is my pad, this is my chill house, right? This is where I live. You already met my dogs a few times running around here and shit, but here's the thing. Let's get back to the perspective here. So what is perception? Now that's tricky because perception can be a lot of people can see it in a lot of different views, obviously, because we have differences of opinions, differences of beliefs, you know, obviously different religions, different languages, like everything's so fucking different, right? So that's what makes it hard for perspective, when I really feel that if you're not who you really are, like if you wear a false mask and you pretend to be somebody you're not, and you just lie to everybody, or you know what I mean, so shit like that, it's not going to be right because you're just not getting the correct data put together, right? So meaning you can't put a round peg in a square hole, right? So you have to be the round peg. That's what we are, and that's our perception. And so to be the square, to fit in, is to be your true self, right? And see things for what they are, not what we think they might be. Because another segment of this what is going to be expectations, which this falls in line with that somewhat. Because when we start to perceive things based off our expectations, well then the story changes, because then if we don't get to perceive our expectation, then we get let down, we get mad, we get, you know, in fights or whatever. And so, I mean, it's even simple as a miscommunication in text messages, because text messages are so fucking plain that you can't feel the emotion, you can't tell the resonance, you can't tell all those things that exist in conversation, right? And so it goes in lines with conversations on the phone, everything, right? Everything's a perception, and so sometimes things just happen, and then you don't hear it right, or you don't read it right, something, and then it changes. It's all synonym. I used to have a hard time saying that word as a kid. Same with puffin. I couldn't say puffin to save my fucking life. But I read the book over and over and over and over and over and over until I got it. Right. So the perception of people are to be true with no expectations. So taking things at face value until you see differently is the way things really have to work. Because when we start implanting things like, well, I thought you meant this, or I read it like this. Sure, some of those feelings might be valid, but there's sometimes a lot of the perception because we have our expectations up so high on things. Like we expect things so instantaneous nowadays. Like when you text message, right? You expect the motherfucker to text you right back, right? But do they sometimes? No. They wait a motherfucking hour and you're sitting there jerking off waiting to fucking hear what they gotta say. That sucks. So it's not so fun. And that changes perceptions because you, my friend, are expecting the text message back in 1 minute or less because it is instantaneous like that. And that's kind of what it's made for, right? So your expectations change because now they're not facilitating that 1 minute or under text. And it takes a long time. So then whatever they're going to tell you why is going to be like not good enough because your expectations were different than what they say, which causes confusion and conflict and blah, 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 blah. So, if you take an honest approach to yourself and you say you want to present yourself to a person where there's no kind of ways to think about who you really are because, you say your name, you fucking act the way you do because that's who you are and to be true and authentic to yourself, then there's nothing to really, misperceive, right? Because you're going to say what you mean when you fucking say and do what you do because that's what you said you were going to do. Leaving no room for misperceptions. And so the expectations can now be laid on a sound foundation because you know this person and they're going to do the same thing that they said they're going to do. They're going to be the whatever, you know what I mean? And so what the hell? It's only when we do things that maybe we think people are going to know or figure out or hear or see or catch on or something that we tweak the perception a tiny bit to change the expectation on purpose. Right. Some people that are sneaky and they're conniving and things like that, so they'll put on a perception where they look like a certain way or a certain kind of person. And so then when other people, let's say they might be smart enough to kind of see through some shit, they look and see this stuff and they kind of, present this as a different perspective of what it was put out in the first place. Hey, chill out, girl. So the expectations change because now they're trying to conceal something, trying to hide something, trying to cover up something, trying not to say something, trying not to do something, some shit like that. Or the opposite, where they are doing something and saying something and shit like that. And so sometimes the perception is changed on purpose. Because they know the other person is expecting one thing, and when it's not being facilitated because of whatever they're doing, they have to change the expectation so that way it changes the outlook, changes the perspective. And that's manipulation and shit. You know what I mean? Straight up it is. Right. So if we're just true to ourselves, because this is a water bottle. We don't want to go say around this is a fucking lollipop, right? I ain't sucking on that shit. Water bottle and drink it. So if we do the same things in our life where we say, yes, hey, I'm honest, I'm going to say whatever, I'm a smoker, right? I'm going to admit that shit. I'm going to keep it. Because whatever, nicotine, so what? But I'm not going to say that I'm not when I really do. And so being that way is really being authentic and true to yourself. And they start small like that. They really do. They start small. But once you get into this small, grows gradual, then it gets bigger, then you have more confidence in yourself and who the fuck you really are. Well, then the perceptive ways that people can try to change things doesn't change because you're not changing. You're staying true to your perception and your beliefs of what you are, who you are, how you say you are, and you live by that. And so then other people that get presented that, they don't have any room to change some shit. And when they try to change some shit, well then some shit's up. And they're trying to change their expectation. Which would lead to a different perception, from what you possibly originally had, and then causing the confusion. And sometimes, like I said, that shit is done on purpose, just to avoid whatever the real situation is. And so you have to find peace with that shit. You know what I mean? You have to say, okay, well, people have fucking free will. If they're gonna do what they're gonna do, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. You know what I mean? What they're gonna do? Chill, girl. She gets spicy when I talk like this. And the what is. Because it's true. Cover concealment's a bitch. But when you're forthcoming and truthful, then that shit don't matter, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, cut it out! I think she's getting frisky on the couch. Come here, Frank. You're going crazy. What are you doing over there? Everybody can hear you and shit. Then calm down. So yes, it's perception, right? So people can look a certain way, and then other people judge them by that way that they look, but they're really not, because people just didn't take the time and they had expectations that were bogus. So what do we say to all that? We say, okay, do I want to be perceived in a certain way? Do I want to be looked at as like a certain kind of, I don't know, aspect where it's not really true because that's not who I am and it's not what I do or what I'm about? You know what I mean? Think about that shit. And so when you feel that way for yourself, like, it's that much easier to think about it with somebody else. And then you can get to now two people that are authentic and cut through all this kind of bullshit, red tape, fucking, little white lies, and blah, 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 right? Changing expectations, keep the perceptions to the same as what you want to be. So if you are a fucking rock star, then act like a rock star. Don't act like a maid. And then cry that you're a rock star, because you're changing the perception, leading to different expectations for the other person. And that's what causes the confusion and the drama and all that shit. If there's honest mistakes of like, oh, I thought I heard you say this, or the way you wrote this in a text message made me feel this, well, then you could be mature enough to talk about those things and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry if you feel this way. I'm sorry if you read it this way, but that's not how I meant it, or blah, 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 blah. Keeping the perception the same if you are true and authentic, but just clarifying some of the maybe miscommunication, misinterpretation, so that way the expectation does not change, leading to this conflict and confusion. So, what do you do if you're stuck in that mode? What if you're like stuck in this where somebody just kind of pops up red flags all the time to you, and then you're like changing your perception on your own? Well, I would call you intuitive then. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how it happens, man. People are going to do some shit they're going to do right in front of your face. They're going to tell you about it and you'll know, but it's just in a weird fucking way. It's not so direct, but it is. Just like changing the expectations of your perception of that person. You know, people try to be who they want other people thinking that they are. Like, what they are on the outside. Like, I call those like kind of like fake people, but they're not fake because they're real people just going through some shit, right? And they need a little bit of a understanding of themselves and kind of deal with some things. But to portray yourself as like I said, like a rock star when you're not, and you're like you never played an instrument before in your life. It's difficult to keep up that perception because you keep trying to change everybody's expectations of you, and then now you find yourself to be limited on these certain things that you have to keep this up with, because if you're not a fucking rock star, you have no fucking musical equipment. People might want to ask you to sing them a song, play the guitar, and then they're going to come up with excuses and lies. And so now this just manifests into a big fucking disaster of shit. Because it's just the perception that you try to put on somebody to change their expectations of them, how they see you, when you really don't see yourself in a way that you should, which would be authentic and true. And if you were authentic and true, you surely as fuck wouldn't be going through all those hoops to make this circus work. So think about that when you go to talk about some shit to people that are holding true to their perception and who they are and being authentic. and stop trying to change the expectations. It's just a person that's within you that needs to either see this as the truth and want to be able to feel as a better person to fix that kind of shit, so then it doesn't lead down this stupid ass fucking rabbit hole of, what could be once you just keep pushing that shit, right? So let's just cut the expectations, take it for face value, unless there's other things that are said or done that compounds the situation to now be like totally obvious that it's a given, man. You know what I'm saying? It comes to itself. Problems always seem to come around, and when we get confused and we get angry and we throw our emotions in this, our perceptions change, our expectations change, and all that change confuses us to get to the fucking outcome, right? It really does. It doesn't allow us to get to the outcome because it's kind of like a barrier and it blocks us. Our emotions like, no, fuck you, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? So then you deal with that shit for a fucking week and you're like shitting your brains out because you got colitis and IBS and whatever else going on, man. You know what I'm saying? But if you just sat there and was like, oh, okay, I do leave the fucking toilet seat up and it does piss you off because you do go swimming at night when you go to take a piss. 2 a.m, honey. My bad. I don't want you to have that perception of me like I don't care that you fall in the toilet, leading to your expectations of me because you expect me to put that toilet seat down because I've always done it, and when I don't do it anymore, then I'm changing everything. And so if you cared for the person, you would explain that, and then you would be courteous and continue on your perception that you first originally gave to this person, which was first putting down the fucking toilet seat, man, or woman. But if you're not authentic, then that change happens like that, and then you get caught up like that. Because if you're authentic and true, and your perception doesn't change about who you are, then you'll always put that toilet seat down. That's right. Therefore, leading to no expectations of, oh, he might one day leave that toilet seat up. No, because this motherfucker demonstrated to you through perception that he could do this constantly on a regular basis, and that should make you feel secure enough to do that. But only sometimes when the stability is like that and people are doing some shit that they want to change the perception of for reasons like saying try to have a breakup or something because they got something else going on. Well, they're going to use that shit and then try to dwell on the fact that even though you do it, they know one day you're going to leave it up and they're going to fall in. And they bred that shit into you, trying to change your perception of yourself and what you do. And that's double fuckness. Those people are no good. You can't fix them shits. You can't change any perspectives. You can't make them see the way that you really are because they're only going to see you for what they want to see you as. Don't give a fuck what your expectations are. So fuck them people. It's the ones that count that want to see who you are and your authenticity because they reflect the same shit. They're authentic and keep their perspectives with themselves to other people the same. Consistency. Steady. Right? That's the proof of the pudding right there. So the truth is like this. You stay true to yourself, everything else will be fine. Till you run into a meathead that tries to change some shit and you're like, no way, it ain't gonna happen. Cut that shit off real quick. You know what I mean? But we always give people fair chances because there's mistakes and there's misunderstandings and miscommunications, right? So we do that so that way we allow the person to see themselves maybe and say, oh, well, okay, I thought this, it was different. Maybe I mistook into what you heard and I feel bad about it, so I want to change it. And I'm not going to beat this into like it's a bloody mess and a bloody Sunday. But instead I'm going to own it like it was my mistake. And we're going to continue and see, if this is a pattern or whatever the fuck, man. But, honest people do that. So think about your perception on how you see yourself. as a collective, everybody out there that's fucking watching, see yourself how you are. Perceive yourself. And then think and ask yourself, do I perceive myself to others as I look at myself? Through their eyes, they see me this way? And they feel the same perspective as I am putting out? As for myself, being authentic and true. Just ask yourself that. And ask your friends and your neighbor and the subway guy and all that shit. Tell them about this channel. Hook it up, you know what I'm saying? I thank you all definitely for coming out. I love chit-chatting. I love kind of putting things out to people that, you know, might maybe hear some shit. Maybe they'll cheering up a little bit of advice. Whatever might help, you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm here to do, sir. And that's, it's going to be what it is. So, love me or fucking find another channel. Mwah. Bye.